Okay, buddy, you put out a call on patreon.com/nodumbquestions to ask all the people who support the show to give us questions today, and we were hoping we'd get one or two from my mom's robot accounts, but instead, the thing came to life. How many are on there?
183.
Good heavens. Yeah, we gave the impression we were going to try to answer whatever questions came in, but you said there were 183?
Do you want to do it? Let's just do it.
I think we should try.
Okay, so the name of the podcast is No Dumb Questions.
Right? I've heard that.
Does that mean like you're not allowed to ask a dumb question, or there are no dumb questions?
See, I think that's part of the fun is the ambiguity, and if we answer that ambiguity goes away. Like if Carly Simon says who You're So Vain is about, it just ruins the song. So let's not.
Okay, let's do it. Here's the first one. You ready?
I'm so ready.
Lucas Krugel says, Matt, what makes a question, quote, dumb?
Ooh.
He says I can answer well, but what makes a question dumb for you?
I think there is such a thing as a dumb question, and what I would say is a dumb question is one that is meant to embarrass the person you're asking by shaming them or putting them on the spot. Any question asked in good faith, no matter how much I might not like it, I think is a not dumb question. A question that's malicious feels like fighting dirty.
I've started watching journalists ask questions in press conferences and how they set traps for the person that's supposed to answer, whether it be an athlete or a politician or whatever. And I'm starting to pay attention more and try to figure out how they get out of the question. And there's several different methods. One is direct attack against the question asker, and then there's appeal to a higher authority or a higher, understanding of how the world works. I don't know. That's something I'm paying attention to more often these days, but I agree with you.
I saw someone challenged with an uncomfortable question in the Wyoming Democratic gubernatorial primary debate, and he responded by saying that the solution to Wyoming's flailing economy are hemp ropes.
I saw a $500 hemp rope. You think about that.
Think about that.
Chris Mapes asked, if you were in a fight with a number of 9-year-olds, how many do you think you could take before being overwhelmed? Matt.
All of them.
No.
All the 9-year-olds.
So your answer is infinity?
How?
You're not
okay.
Shamgar.
Well, maybe. That leads right to my question, though. What am I armed with? Nothing? Do I get nothing?
You're just in a fight, Matt.
I could go for a really long time against 9-year-olds. A really long time. And I want you to think about why, Destin Sandlin.
Why?
At my height, with adult man strength, and I am not a weak adult man, what for you would be wasted energy swinging down at the faces of children, for me would just be a hurricane of fists extended at full range, spinning until they're all defeated.
But I think the operative word here is overwhelmed. Like, this isn't like a movie where they line up and they fight you one at a time, or in The Drug Stopper when you did that. This is an overwhelming herd or horde of 9-year-olds.
I stand by my answer. Give me your more modest answer.
I think 10 could take me.
What?
Yeah, 10 9-year-olds.
Are you kidding me right now?
Dude.
Like, first of all, I hate the idea of violence against 9-year-olds. Let's just address that.
That's not
Two,
the
in a
question.
hypothetical world where this makes sense, like, even if they all rush at me at once, I'm going to disable several pretty permanently early in that squabble if this is a matter of life and death.
We got to.
Okay.
Do you know how to roll a towel up and pop people with it?
Yeah, I do.
So my kids, I shared the sacred knowledge with them the other day, and the way that I shared it with them.
They're not ready. That's Greek fire.
I know. They all came at me, and I was like, wait, no. I'm going to just pull out this secret weapon that you didn't know existed because I'm an old man and debauchery conquers youth at all points in time.
Like, did you take off one of their ears?
No, I didn't. So I started popping them, and then they all ganged up on me at once. And so I had a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old all going at it. They meant it. And do you know who gave me the most problems?
Who?
The 6-year-old, because I was focusing on the 11-year-old and the 9-year-old because I, overestimated their strength. And he would zip in behind me, and they were trying to take my car keys from me. That was the game. And he would zip in behind me, and he would make the most desperate plays to get the keys, and then he would pop me with his flip-flops, and he would get out of there in time. Anyway.
Chris Mapes, here's the deal. In your question, if you clarified, is this for keeps or are we just messing around? I think that affects the answer. Because if it's for keeps, I'm disabling those little turds, and several are going to be out of the fight very early on. I'm going to skip the next question.
No. It's from Salam Shakur. It says, Matt, would you look at this photograph?
Oh, see what you did, Salam Shakur. And I frankly don't appreciate it. That had 13 hearts. Thanks a lot, Internet.
Bob Claggett from I Like to Make Stuff says, if there were bizarro versions of yourself, parentheses, complete with opposites in another dimension, close parentheses, what would they be doing with their lives, and would you want to meet them?
You go.
Oh, wait, that's actually not from Bob. That's Josh, the guy that works with Bob. Bob, your avatar is on your account, and Josh is using it. That's not good.
Well, that just happened. Well, maybe it's good. He signed it, Josh. That's clear enough.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So, do you know what an antipode is?
Yes, because we've talked about it.
Did I tell you about the time I tried to meet my antipodal neighbors?
No.
I lived in an apartment complex that was symmetric. I knew this because I looked at the aerial map of it, and it was literally symmetric. And I was like, we're talking 500 places in this apartment. It was huge. I was like, there is someone that if I were to fold a piece of paper, they're not in apartment 325. They're in the opposite side over there at 525 or whatever it is. I'm going to go meet them. And I did. So I went over there to meet the Bizarro version of us. And this lady came to the door, and it was me and my roommate. I was like, hey, we're your antipodal neighbors.
She said that?
I said that.
Oh. I was like, wow, you guys are bizarro opposites. Okay, continue.
She's like, what? Can I help you? I was like, yeah, we live on the Antipode, just on the other side. And she's like, 1 second, let me get my husband. Honey? And then a cop came to the door. And I was like, there's this thing called an Antipode, right? And then if you, the world...
Sir, I'm going to count to 5, and you're going to...
Anyway.
Yes, sir. I apologize.
What about you? Bizarro version of yourself?
It's very hard for me to picture this bizarro version of myself, but I would like to meet them, no matter what screwed up weird stuff they're doing, just as some kind of cautionary tale.
Complete opposite. So they'd be really bad with words. I don't know. That's interesting.
Tall, but very ugly.
Have you ever wondered if you would like yourself if you met yourself?
There are times in my life when I would have answered that in different ways.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting.
I tell you what, the things that irritate me the most about my kids are the things that look just like me. Like, oh, I know where you got that. Ugh. You learned it from watching me, all right? You learned it from watching me. You don't like those.
Griffin says,
R. Brooks. Do you want to ask it? Because it's weird now. It's like we're both trying to go through the same door. I'm just going to go. How much would you be willing to pay for 24 hours in space tomorrow, Destin? Dollar number.
It depends on if I were able to actually do meaningful science on the trip, or if it was like a tourist type trip. If it was a tourist type trip, then probably not as much as you would think. If it was like I could do meaningful active science and help and learn, and it wasn't just like a, hey, I'm awesome because I'm in space kind of thing.
Huh?
Probably all my money.
You can fly in space.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of risk and stuff.
Doesn't that count as science? Just fly.
No, like if you're actively participating and learning and doing really, really cool stuff, and maybe it could even be a spaceship trial or something like that. That would count for me, and I would give everything I've got.
I respect you.
But if it was just like, hey, do you want a ticket to go on this thing? We're going to take pictures of you up there and promote our space company. I'd give some monies, but not all the monies.
No, they'd need to pay you for that.
You know what I'm saying. What about you?
Yeah, okay. All right, I'm tracking.
24 hours in space.
If all the money I would ever have in my entire life was $100,000, I would pay 10 to go to space.
10,000? So 10% of
1/10 of everything I ever had, I would pay to go to space.
Wow.
Just the idea of being one of the tiny, tiny, tiny little fraction of people ever to escape this gravity and see it from the outside looking in, yeah, I'd pony up.
I have deep thoughts there. I'm gonna have to think about that.
D. Keeling says, Not to get all religious here, but I'm particularly interested in your views on how Christians are supposed to be a part of the world, but not of it. Specifically relating to topics like, for example, watching certain types of content that mainstream evangelicals wouldn't be caught dead watching, i.e. Game of Thrones. I'm into that. The question might not appeal to everyone, nope, but would be an interesting discussion about culture and religion in general, not just Christianity. It doesn't appeal to everyone, but none of these questions are going to appeal to everyone. It's a good question. Destin, what do you make of it?
You know how to keep a Baptist from drinking all your beer on the fishing trip, right?
Tell me.
Take 2 Baptists.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
It really worked for me.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things in the world is when pastors are real people and they don't do the holier than thou thing and all that. And I like it when people I go to church with are awesome as well. And they don't try to act like they're some holier than thou whatever. I don't know. We're just all people.
Yeah. I reached a point somewhere in my adult life when I was a Christian and then I became a not Christian, didn't believe in God, and then I became a Christian again. You know this story. I'm not going to get into all of it. And somewhere on the return trip, I was like, all right, look, I've clearly been misreading this document and misprioritizing things. And there are other people, it's very important to them to not do a bunch of things. But if there's not a clear and obvious case for it in the Bible, that it just probably shouldn't be a part of my life. And then I'm just going to decide based on whether or not I think it's good and redemptive and useful. And I think Game of Thrones is wildly good and redemptive and useful. I really like art. I'm very hard to offend. I like stuff that tells the truth. And even if the truth is something I don't like, the truth of what an author is thinking and how they conceive of something really matters to me. And so I've just chosen not to be offendable. And the world has gotten bigger for me, and I've really enjoyed it.
So young Destin met a PhD student from another country that was depressed. I knew he was depressed. And I was like, hey, dude, you want to go to church with me? It's a cool place. People, we have fun, whatever. It doesn't matter what you think or believe or whatever. You want to go hang out? He's like, maybe. He goes, or maybe we could go have the beers. And we could have some beers and... yeah, we could talk about the stuff. And I was like, well, you know,
didn't do it, like, obviously.
I was like, well, I don't drink beer. You don't drink beer? I was like, I don't. Why don't you drink beer? And then I was like, why don't I drink beer? And so I was like, Jesus turned water into... I was like, oh, I'm doing the holier than thou thing. And then my whole house of cards fell apart. And then I was like, yeah, I do things now that... and you know what? It ended up helping a depressed PhD student that needed it at the time. And I needed it at the time, too. So we taught each other stuff.
Because that's what happened.
Yeah.
Your strategy for showing the world what you believe and introducing people to Jesus or just positioning yourself to just be kind and helpful to people shifted from show them how many bad things you don't do to see if you can impress them with bad things you don't do that they don't even care if you do or don't do, to
loving
position
people.
myself to be in a place where I can be kind to people and have relationships with people.
Yeah, and love people.
So I respect it. Yep. Matthew J. Palka says, for everyone you meet, what is the value or quality you most prioritize and instill in others? Example, integrity, vulnerability, curiosity. So I'm taking the question as what quality do you most prioritize in other people?
I like to be genuine. Don't come at me with fake you. I want to know I'm talking to a real person. That's very important to me.
Yeah.
Not the person you want me to think you are.
I would say goodwill. I might be frustrated with ideas I don't like, but if someone is arguing them honestly, I can work with that. I would say my second thing is non-aggression. I really value an ethic of non-aggression in other people. I won't hurt you. I won't mess with your stuff. I won't advocate for hurting other people to get what I want. James Treharn says, Matt/Destin, what are the top 3 habits that you've developed to help you be more productive in your everyday life?
I think I'm more productive when I sleep more. I know that's silly. No?
You know I don't think that's silly.
Yeah, that's important.
We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top 3. Okay, there's 1.
Pomodoro technique. Work really hard for 15 minutes and take a couple minute breaks. And
Pomodoro, like tomato?
Yeah, tomato in Italian. It's after a tomato kitchen timer. It's a thing. Pomodoro technique.
Okay, cool. All right.
And the next thing is just checking in with the family. And if I feel like things are good there, then things are good everywhere else. You?
Sunday's always coming when you're a pastor and you do what I do. If you're a journalist, you have a publication deadline. People who work on deadlines get this. If I am ahead of the curve on that big deadline thing that's coming up, everything else is more effective. So for me, not letting myself feel like I'm getting underwater. Number 2 would be serious rest, just like you. Number 3 would be go do other things with my brain. Think, don't just put fingers to keys and write. Think, go fish, hang out, whatever, process ideas. That's my stuff. You want to get the next one?
Andy Upton, I want to support content makers on YouTube, but can't be a patron of all of them. Do content makers get more revenue if I watch the entire ad video that the YouTube puts before me in the video, or am I just wasting my time watching the entirety of those advertisements? Thank you for what you do, guys.
Well, I'll speak to that one. I don't know.
Yeah, my answer to that is the most effective thing you can do to help content creators you like is share their work by word of mouth. Like, hey, friend, you should listen to this person or watch this person's videos because they're good. That is the single most effective thing you can do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ditto, strongly agree. I regret my sarcastic earlier answer. Shannon says, for both of us, how has your perspective on life changed since starting the podcast?
I think more. I think deeper, and I often think about how I'm going to process things with you.
Yeah, we kind of joked about being different / not different all the way back in episode 1 or whenever that was. And the more we do this and actually have to listen to ourselves talk because we edit or review it, the more I realize, no, there really is some of this stuff where we just truly are wired differently. And I find myself taking your perspective into account more, just rolling through life on normal stuff.
I'm also more aware of my flaws because I know you well enough where you can just call me out on them. And a lot of people in my life don't do that. And so that's good.
I think likewise. Josiah Michael writes, what's a hobby? I assume that it's that you would like to get into but haven't had the time or resources to get started.
I want to build a kayak. It's called a strip-built kayak. I bought a book. I know how to do it. I know how to make it stable in the water and not flip over by how you shape the whole bottom of the boat. I've done the research. I've just never done it. I want to do that. What about you?
I want to learn more languages. I want to get German next.
Ooh.
Is that a hobby? I don't know. For me, it is a hobby. I like words and language, and I have fun learning new stuff. So yeah, I think German is next.
Strip-built kayak. I would love to do that. I need to make a video on that and just tie the two things together.
Because you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Paul George says, I drive a truck for a living and I listen to audiobooks while I drive. My question is, what books should I listen to that are good for history? I currently have about 65 books in my Audible library and have listened to almost all of them in the past 1.5 years. My answer to that question is I really like Skunk Works. It's a good history book about aerospace industry. All of the books that I've recommended on Audible are at smartereveryday.com/audible. I also like The Walking Drum by Louis L'Amour. It's a fiction, though.
Yes, you do.
I do.
Wow. That's such a big topic. Okay, some history books that I have absolutely loved from across the spectrum of difficulty. The Classical World by Robin Lane Fox. I don't know, it's like watching HBO's Rome, except it's all accurate and it's juicy and it's interesting and beautifully written. I loved George Marsden's biography of Jonathan Edwards, one of the first big intellectuals in American history. I loved Roland Bainton's Here I Stand, which is a really easy treatment of Martin Luther, but it'll help you wrap your brain around the Reformation. I don't know, I could come up with others, but those are 3 that have recently come up in conversation.
Douglas Mead asks, what have you bought for $100 or less that has changed your life for the better?
HelloFresh. HelloFresh is the answer.
That is the answer.
That is the best under $100 thing that I'm spending my money on right now. And I would say that even if there were no podcast.
I'm pumped that they're a sponsor, though. I really am, because we love it.
And they've been a great partner.
Yeah, they really have. It teaches us how to cook. They send ingredients to your house. You get to select the meals online. You cook them. They're awesome. There's an instruction sheet that comes along. It makes you feel like you're really smart because you make this really cool meal and your family gets to eat it together, and it's a big win for everybody.
Are you cool if I just read like literally what this thing is?
Yeah, do it.
Here it goes. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that shops, plans, and delivers step-by-step recipes and pre-measured ingredients so you can just cook, eat, and enjoy. pretty much sums it up. But you know what else is cool about it is that you can also turn it off. Unlike some other things on the internet, if you're not around, you can just shut it down for the time being, which you guys have been...
Yeah, we've been out of town. We totally did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just pause it. And because they send it to you on a certain day of the week, you can just select if you want it or not, and you can select which meals you get. It's really cool. It's kind of simple, convenient way to do family meal planning.
We had tacos this week. We had like a pork and rice kind of thing. I've never had anything like that. Super, super good, interesting flavor. My kids ate all of this. Everything that we've got, my kids have cooperated with, and they're a touch picky. So I think the selection is excellent, or at least we always find stuff that works for us.
I have eaten every bite of every HelloFresh that we've ever made. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously. For a total of $60 off, that's $20 off each of your first 3 boxes. Visit HelloFresh.com/NDQ60 and enter NDQ60 at checkout.
I mean, the food is just the bonus. You will learn things. You will genuinely get better at knowing your way around a kitchen, especially if you have a ton to learn like me. It's super easy. This is a quick turnaround. I mean, from the time we actually get it out of the box to the time that it happens is more than reasonable. The food is great, but there's a whole bunch of reasons beyond that. So once again, for a total of $60 off, which is like $20 off your first 3 boxes, visit HelloFresh.com/NDQ60. And you got to put in the promo code NDQ60. HelloFresh has been an awesome partner for us to work with because we like working with them just as a company and we really love the product. So if you haven't tried this yet, I hope you give it a go. And I don't know, I hope it becomes a part of your rhythm like it has for us.
One thing that happens a lot is people that interact with me in real life, they'll ask me, hey, this HelloFresh thing you keep talking about, are you serious about that? I'm like, it's legit. I do like it, and you will like it too. And then they all try it, and then they like it.
It's interesting that we've been talking about them and working with them long enough that people bring it up. But I got a text today from a family who has kids at college, and they're like, hey, just wanted to say thanks because the HelloFresh things turned out to be great. Rather than sending our kid money for food, we just send him HelloFresh meals, and he loves it. So I hadn't thought of that application, but
that's awesome.
That's clever.
Golly, man. As a college kid, that would have been amazing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That's awesome. HelloFresh.com/NDQ60 and enter NDQ60 at checkout.
Destin, we have 11 billion more questions to get to. Let's see what we can do about it.
Let's do it.
Some white guy says, as fathers, how do you guide your family without seeming like you're forcing them into a mold of your own making? I find it hard to guide my wife and little ones in a way that allows their unique gifts to thrive while also going toward a specific goal.
Without forcing them into a mold of your own making. Well, I'll just take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I present both sides of the argument or the whatever it is. I mean, like even God, I'll say, a lot of people will say this particular thing is not real because God doesn't exist. And I'll explain that. And then, I'll lay out both sides of that argument so that they know. That way, when they're finally hit with it in the real world, it's not like earth-shattering, stuff like that. I mean, they know there are multiple sides to any discussion. That's what I do.
Yeah, we kind of do the same on this. We let our kids encounter weird stuff and words that we don't really want them to use yet, and then I tell them exactly what they mean every time they come up. And that is weird, but it's become not weird to them. Like they just expect if they hear a word they don't know, their dad is going to explain it to them, and it's going to maybe be uncomfortable, but then and then I tell them, you don't get to judge other adults for using it, and you're not old enough to wield a word that sharp yet, so some other day you can decide if you get to or not. So in a way, that is me forcing them into a mold, because I just don't think they're ready for the F-bomb, but I think it's a good mold, and it's not permanent, because I'm instilling in them that they get to pick what they do with that later. They're just not equipped to make that decision just yet. I don't know. That one's deep. There's a lot further we could go.
I like that answer. Ryan Joy, can we have an episode that is just your wives talking to each other, mostly but not entirely about you?
You know who would need to answer that question, I would think, would be our wives.
Yeah, I agree.
But in principle, are you good with that?
I don't make my wife do anything. If she wants to do that, she can. If she doesn't want to do that, she doesn't have to. That's her.
Well, yeah.
That's her choice.
I feel like you're coming at that exactly the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ask
my
them.
wife is super smart, and as is yours. Yeah,
They're both
exactly.
They're both
Ask
on
them.
Twitter. Ask them.
Yes.
So.
And totally adults.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a good question. Ryan, we don't want to make it sound like that's not a good question. We just, I don't know, respect our wives. So we'll bounce it to them. So a question from Tim. Is it possible to consume media without implicitly condoning the production or content of said media with regards to violence, indecency, or crudeness?
Yes, it is possible.
Have you read the Bible? I do not condone the things in the Bible.
Yeah, there you go.
But I still super like it. Alan Bottomley asks, oh, me? What is my recommendation for a bidet? Brands, features? Not a problem, Alan. And thank you so much for asking. I recommend the Luxe Bidet Warm Water Edition for $69.99, available at Amazon.com. You're definitely going to want the feature that allows you to go all the way into cleaning mode so that you can warm the water before adjusting it gradually with your right hand to ever so gently put pressure on your undercarriage. Ben Hood asks, my fantasy football draft is coming up this weekend. Do you guys play or have any tips on draft strategy? Destin?
No.
Correct.
I know you play. I know this is a gigantic, like this is a dumpster truck full of
come on,
of emotion for you.
No.
Oh, okay. You're not playing this year.
Emotion?
Okay, next question by Adam.
No, don't move on. Don't move on. I want to talk about it.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I super care. Yes, I do play fantasy football. I like it. I've played for a long time, all the way back to the pen and paper days. My tip for a draft, it's the first thing you figure out is, are we doing the point per catch thing? If you get points per catch, then finding those receivers out of the backfield is super important because you get to double dip. That's a big deal. You need to figure out how many points are in the defenses, because usually defenses are scored pretty weakly in leagues, but some leagues, for whatever reason, will just have crazy point values with defenses, in which case you bump them up in your draft. And finally, there's only one or two really productive tight ends in any given draft, and people will wait until late to start drafting them. You want to be the one to open the Pandora's box of tight ends, because there are only a couple that'll be productive, and you want to be one of the people who have those. That's my answer. Yes, I like fantasy football. Mock me all you want. Next question.
Adam asks me, as a man of science that puts a lot of emphasis on things that we can know through experimentation, math, and other tangible and quantifiable means. That's interesting. Math, tangible. That makes me think things. How do these things play into your faith, which you have also demonstrated plays an important role in your life, which is not based on science, math, and other tangible and quantifiable means? So the implication here is that faith is not based on science, math, or other tangible or quantifiable means. That's interesting. I would kind of reject that part of the question. This is a loaded question, Adam, and I get it all the time.
I don't think it's a mean loaded question.
I don't think it's a mean loaded question.
I understand the disconnect. I think it's fair, but loaded is also a fair thing to call it.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. It's like, basically, the way the question comes often is, but you seem smart, so how can you have faith?
Why are you dumb?
Yeah, exactly. And my goal is to just demonstrate to you that a person can be a man of faith and also a man of science. In fact, I mean, some of the great discoveries in history, or the great, things that people arrived at, like Newton, for example, calculus. Newton was a man of faith. Georges Lemaitre, the great, the guy that came up with the Big Bang Theory, was also a man of faith. I understand the question.
Larry the Cable Guy.
Larry the Cable Guy. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I look at the world and I try to figure out the incredible order that I see in it. And when a cursory look will make a man an atheist, but a closer look, in my experience, shows me incredible order in things. And if you keep asking why and just keep going backwards and asking why, eventually you run into a roadblock with science. And there are some other questions there that, extend beyond that for me.
Stephen Quattlebaum writes, what is the most spectacularly wrong that an attempt to make a video has gone?
Okay, so Stephen sat behind me in calculus in high school.
Oh.
Yeah, he did.
That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we did one time that involved pulling a tooth, and it was awful. And we're just not going to talk about it. It was bad. So
Oh.
it was spectacular and bad. What about you?
I've had a lot of aborted attempts at videos.
Oh, dude, I know the answer to this question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What is it? Go. Is it, you know the answer for me?
For me, no,
Rock and fire. I want to hear it.
there was a sheep in labor, and I had a high-speed camera, and I was going to record the sheep giving birth. And
At high speed? How fast do you think sheep come out?
well, it would have been interesting. Anyway, it was bad because the lamb didn't come out. Like, it was stuck. It was all the way stuck.
You got to go in there and get it.
We tried for an hour. We tried, and we eventually had to kill the sheep. It was bad.
Oh my goodness.
It was the worst because she was in pain. Anyway, that was spectacularly bad. Thanks, Stephen, for bringing it back. Appreciate that.
Legit answer.
Mr. C says, if me and my family pass by close to you, can we meet up? ? We are truck drivers from the EU and at the moment just started working in Canada/USA. Thanks. You've been doing this a lot this summer, haven't you, Matt?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people just drop by, maybe coming or going to Yellowstone or on vacation or something. And I've been able to say hello to a few, but man, I go hard. I feel like I've been a disappointment schedule-wise to far more than I've been able to say hello to. So, sorry.
I'm the same way. I do a lot, and I try to give all my spare time to my kids. Like, I didn't tuck my kids in tonight because we're recording this. Right. And so if I have spare time, I want it to go to them. I'm not saying no. I mean, sometimes it works out, but that's my first job.
Yeah, and I would agree. And everybody I've had a chance to chat with in person, it's been really cool. And you know who you are, who I just have had to say I can't for schedule reasons, and I apologize now with my voice and not just an email. So thanks in advance for understanding that we go hard and have a lot going on. Dan Coaster writes, I want to continue to do a good job for my employer despite the knowledge that my 2-year contract will be over in a month. I like what I do, but don't particularly enjoy the thing my team is currently working on. It'd be easy to just slack off for a month. Any tips for keeping motivation and morale up for this final month? That one's for you, buddy.
Go strong. Take it to the hole.
Oh, that was strong.
Yeah.
That was real good.
Yeah.
It's a month. Think about how you want to feel after the month. Picture how you want to feel in 30 days and choose what that feeling is like.
Tyler Bosflug says, Matt, if you were going to record a sound travel experience for Destin's channel, where would you record it?
Inside Old Faithful Geyser while it's erupting. Or maybe just close to it.
Destin, is there a place you think you could take Matt that isn't near your home where you could give a history lesson that he wouldn't know about yet?
You've already done it.
Where?
We went to that tiny little plot where people had been buried back in the 19th century.
Oh, yeah. The slave cemetery.
Yeah. That was something.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I learned a ton in Alabama. So I'll answer that one for you. Yes.
Okay, serious question. Have any of you been in a place in your life where things just didn't mean much anymore and nothing was making sense? If yes, how did you get over it?
Can I take a run at this one?
Yeah, man.
It's a story I've told here before, but I had one version of Christianity that was very me-focused and behaviorally focused as a young man and into my 20s, and it just broke. And what you're describing is exactly what it felt like when that fell apart. I just couldn't keep putting fingers in the dam to keep it from breaking anymore. The ideas didn't gel. It didn't work. It didn't feel right. And honestly, I think I just needed to go through a crisis of belief. Or maybe not even crisis, just an honest reevaluation of my belief. And it certainly felt different afterwards. I don't know. That was my feeling. Go right at it. But I suppose everybody's situation's different.
My suggestion would be help someone that can't help you back and just see what that does.
Great suggestion. Are you noticing that a fair amount of these are like pretty deep water? Man, I feel like we're kind of doing a lightning round, and I hate to give super important life advice that quickly.
I feel like people were saving up questions and they're like, oh, they're going to answer the questions. It's time to unload.
These are great.
Yeah.
Give me the next one.
Abigail Carlson. My husband and I are going to go to Rome in a couple of weeks, couple of weeks next year. What are the musts for first-timers in Italy?
Okie dokie. Here we go. The obvious stuff. The Forum.
Make it quick. We're lightning rounding here.
The Colloseum, Trevi Fountain, the Vatican. The slightly less obvious stuff. Go to St. John's Lateran. Learn some of the history there. Go to San Croce, Gerusalemme, where St. Helena went and got a bunch of relics from Jesus' time and brought them back to Rome. That's
4,
awesome. Give me a little
3,
more than that. I'm passionate
2,
about this. Go out of
1.
town and go to Assisi.
Done.
Fantastic. Stop in Orvieto on your drive up to Florence, where you can get out and walk around and check everything out, including the Ponte Vecchio, which is a super old bridge that's very famous. Alexander Shields says, what is your go-to dad move when you are parenting solo and the kids start in?
I'd say diamond cutter or just good old-fashioned pile driver.
Oh, my goodness. Yep, that'll do it. I would go out in the backyard and take batting practice with the tennis balls and the wiffle ball bat.
What about suplex? Suplex isn't bad.
No, I don't. I'm not suplexing my children unless they're part of the herd of 9-year-olds who are trying to defeat me. Okay, you got the next one.
I'm proud of my answer. I think that was funny.
It was funny, and I'm glad you thought so.
Matthew Kolhanek, looking back at your life with chapters, what are some of your top/best decisions you made, and what are some of the worst/wish you wouldn't have decisions you've made in your life? Wife, best decision?
Yep, I'm right there. Young me absolutely stumbled into something he did not know how good it would be. Yep, best decision.
Yeah. Worst decision?
Yeah, my worst decisions would all be the regrets that I did what I needed to do. I squared accounts, and I'm happy to move on.
Yeah, I made a bunch of bad decisions too. I think everyone does.
Hurt people, said stupid stuff, whatever.
Yep.
Like that one's pretty straightforward. There are no life decisions where I chose to go this way or that way that I would call worst. I'm cool with how it's worked out.
James Austin, what's something dumb and that shouldn't matter but annoys you anyway? Can I answer for you, Matt?
Yes, you may. Go right ahead. I wonder what it will be.
Stuff on the dashboard. You hate that.
That is not dumb. How dare you? That affects the way a person drives.
It's dumb.
Because you don't want things to slide, and so part of your brain is spent on don't make the things slide when all you should be doing is driving. It's not dumb.
For me, it's people that don't walk in straight lines, specifically at airports. For me as an engineer, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and when you're walking in a curly area or you're walking backwards and not looking where you're going, I wish people would walk in straight lines. I just wish they would.
Oh, and on that note, when I'm somewhere with a group and we need to be confident, it's one of those moments where like, hey, we need to look like we know what we're doing here, and people start bumbling and running into each other because they're indecisive and nervous. It just kills me. It's like I'm trying to walk in to pull off an Ocean's 8 level caper here, and you're running into each other. Like, come on.
Josiah Gardner, what's the longest time either of you have spent completely alone without any human contact? Ooh, good question. Mm-hmm. How long do you think you could last without going crazy? Golly, I like that.
Not long. I mean,
No, have you ever gone a complete day?
I really like being alone. But maybe a couple days.
Dude, that's a great question. No, I've never gone a couple days alone.
Yeah, I can think of a couple days when family was gone and I just set up shop at home and quietly worked.
I traveled to Germany once. The first international trip I made alone was me going to Germany, and I wasn't alone, but I felt alone because I didn't know anybody and I couldn't speak the language. It was either that or there was another time similar to that in Senegal, Africa, in one of those two times.
I like being alone, but I like people. I think I'd lose it fairly quickly.
I don't think I'd lose it. As long as I could read. I think I'd need to be able to read.
I disagree. I think you'd lose it.
Yeah.
I think you'd lose it. I think it would mess with your motivation. I think even your faith would start to fail, not in terms of believing in God, but in terms of knowing what to do with it, because so many of the things that you do or you think about as a Christian involves how you respond to or treat other people. There are obviously people who went out into the desert and lived as hermit religious people, and I guess they figured it out, but I've never done it. I don't know. I think it'd be tough.
That makes me wonder when the next time I'm going to be alone for an extended period of time is, because of the 4 kids.
Let's go fishing.
Dang.
I get in a pretty good amount of extended, no words, alone time. Isaac Maddox, how did each of you know what you do was what you wanted to do?
In high school, I went and shadowed an engineer for the day, and I saw what he did. He just figured out problems all day, or solutions to strange problems, and I liked that.
I do a whole bunch of different things, and all of those things keep coming back to I really like ideas, and I really like trying to help people. And so working where I do makes sense.
Bruce Ulrich says, Destin, do you still do any woodworking? I seem to remember something you did some woodworking a while back. Yes, I do still do woodworking. And there's a follow-up question to that. Andrew Batorf says, in a similar vein, Destin, have you ever thought about doing some high-speed videos of woodworking tools, both power and hand tools? Matt, I sent you that image via text.
Yes.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, you did.
The answer is yes.
And I will not disclose, but
yeah,
it was special.
Yeah. So yeah, the answer is yes. Chantal Montgomery, what are you ashamed of? Dang, man, people want us to hate ourselves.
Yeah, well, I don't need help or a request to
Matt,
to not feel good about stupid stuff.
What is the
done.
one
There's
thing in
plenty.
your life that makes you hate yourself the worst? Matt, what could I ask you right now that would make you the saddest?
What could you talk about here that would ruin your life best?
Okay, you win. That broke me. Chantal, we have a lot of things we're ashamed of. I'm ashamed of not being a better dad. I'm ashamed that it took me so long to discover that I like tomatoes.
I'm ashamed of not having got more done at this point.
Yeah, same.
I'm ashamed of saying that I was going to do tons of stuff that I intended to do fully at the time and did not deliver on the way I intended to.
But the stuff I'm ashamed of doesn't define me, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We should talk about that more.
Yeah.
That's way too much for this, but that whole guilt, shame, regret thing, we joke about it, but that's a big part of who a person is.
It's come up a lot.
Let's talk about that more down the road.
Jake Stokes, what is an experience that shook you to your core beliefs? What? How do you reconcile that to adapt, change your beliefs into what they are now? What's the deal with these heavy questions, man? People were waiting.
The heavy, quick questions, heavy, quick answer. My brother died, and that is where the rubber meets the road of faith, because faith has a lot to do with the question of human mortality, and it made me think about a bunch of stuff.
You went there, Jake. You made that happen.
Okay.
Henry Lebar, what superpower would you want and why? Fly.
That's telekinesis, Kyle. And is there any other superpower that makes sense other than being able to move stuff with your brain?
Yeah, fly. I mean, yeah, John C. knows.
Okay, I'll just move my body with my brain and then I fly.
John C. says, Destin created Smarter every day about this, and I did say I wanted to fly. Jesse Regal, are there any current plans for another live episode of NDQ? We don't know yet, sorry.
Enjoyed it last time? Oh, I can tell you one thing, buddy. I do have something that is going to go live sometime soon that involves our last live episode. That will be fun. More later.
David got us. So aliens built the pyramids, right?
Duh, obviously. James Austin, what are your takes on the Fermi paradox? I mean, just time-wise, I'm not sure I have the ability to break that down.
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking, I was just sitting looking at the Jennifer Morash. I would very much like to hear the story of how you two met. I have heard snippets in various conversations, but never the whole thing, and this has a lot of upvotes.
It feels weird to hear it kind of asked that way.
It is. It is.
How do we meet? Well, we agreed to go to an event in Springfield, Missouri at the same time, and then I picked you up in an airport.
Yeah, but the upshot is I called you on the phone.
Yeah, you called me on the phone.
This is a serious ask. They really want, Jennifer is asking seriously what, and the answer is, I wanted to be your friend, and you didn't want to be my friend.
Well, hey, come on.
Just answer the question. Jennifer, this is a lightning round. Jennifer just wants to know the answer to the question.
Yeah, the answer to the question is you gave me a call one time. We had a really good conversation. And then we had more conversations, and we became friends. Now we're friends.
That's pretty much it.
It's really boring. Yeah, it's really boring.
There was strategy to it. There was a lot to it. It was an active, willing, like, should we be friends? I think we should. We have a lot in common. We're both very busy, but at the same time, we're very different. You're in a different place. You're in a totally different field. I don't know. It was the whole, we have a lot in common. We have a lot not in common.
It is weird that it was a touch calculating and ruthless. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess we sized each other up and decided I'd like to be your friend. And then we were friends after that.
Wessels, one of the biggest frustrations with the current American culture is the assumption that discomfort is bad for people. Ooh. Could you both talk about how you've either stayed in your comfort zone and how that was for you afterwards, or how you perhaps embraced discomfort and what came from those experiences?
Wow. That's a great question. That's a whole episode worth of question right there.
It really is.
We should do a whole episode on discomfort. Here's my lightning round answer. I think.
Well, if we're gonna do an episode, don't give a lightning round. I mean, if you really want to do an episode on that, don't answer it, and we'll do it.
Okay.
For realsies.
Great question.
It's got 20.
We'll come back to
20 hearts. Yeah. Skylar Hudson, Matt. Let's assume there are space trout. What is your go-to fly to sling at them?
Well, I'm always going to start with an L. caricatus. If that doesn't work initially, I'm going to put a dropper on that with a Prince Nymph because it always seems to work. If that doesn't work, I might rotate out of the Prince Nymph to a Copper John. And if that doesn't work, I might go with something bigger to get their attention and go with a hopper and dropper. Destin, which would you use?
But it wouldn't be a dropper at that point.
Well, it's still a dropper because I'm still going to put something on the bottom end of that grasshopper pattern.
So we're not in weightlessness. We're on a planet like with water.
Yeah, I mean, Mars is where we theorize there might be space trout. And by we, I mean me. So there's some gravity there, right?
Okay.
I'll just clip a couple extra leads on top of the bead head, and it should go right down.
Okay, cool.
Jonathan McMurray.
I would use power bait.
Which country? You would use power bait, and you'd use a treble hook, and you'd tear up all my trout, you
I'd use
jerk.
a rattle trap and power bait.
And you would keep them. John, and you know what else you would do? You would clean them on the shore in space grizzly territory, which would attract the space grizzlies to the space fishermen. That's just bush league crap. Jonathan McMurray, which country would each of you most like to visit but haven't been able to yet, and why?
For me, it's between Japan and India.
Okay, I'll go China because it's the place where I know the most about the history and have never been anywhere close to it. It'd be fun to connect names and faces.
Yeah.
Quentin Courier, how would you tell a clone apart from the other person? Can I please handle this?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's so easy. First of all, you point a gun at both of them at the same time and sweat and cry because you're not sure which one you have to kill, because you obviously have to kill one of them. And then you make them both start begging. And the one is going to get all desperate and cocky, but the other one is going to be like, remember that time? And then music starts to play and they tell you about something really emotional where you met, and then you just empty that mag into the other one as soon as you feel something in your heart. Epic Dabble. Could you just browse r/ask Reddit and hit some of those, please?
I would love to do that. Let's do it super, super fast. If you could do college again, what would you do different? Ooh, if I had a long enough life, I'd be a doctor.
Yeah, I would still meet my wife, but I would go to somewhere with an incredibly awesome history and tradition that goes with it. I went to a school that doesn't have a ton of that.
What dead video game would you like to be revived? Commander Keen.
Kid Icarus.
What celebrity let you down the most?
Rae Carruth. Colorado football player who took out a hit on his girlfriend. That's a pretty big letdown.
That's a big letdown. Okay, we'll go back. That was obviously painful for you. Okay, so you can't condense things into short answers. It's very difficult, isn't it? Like this is physically
really? Ask me another one.
Am I stupid?
No.
You should take in the bait. Havard Skjekenland says, for Matt, what do people often get wrong about human history, the people, past, and the societies they lived in?
People really lump together stuff from before the Middle Ages into one giant clump of just old. And so you can tell people who've studied history a little bit because they understand the eras and they separate all that out, even in distant history. Folks who take more of a passing glance on it will tend to lump Greece and Rome and Persia and all of that stuff for that 1,500 years into one glob.
You can't answer a question. You just can't do it.
Well, are you kidding me? That's an efficient, good answer.
Yeah, but in one sentence or less, this is painful for you.
Well, I have to think of the answer.
Kerrigan Joseph, if you had to pick a career in the other person's field, Destin a humanities career, and Matt a science career, what would it be and why? Based on interest, not necessary skill, assume you can learn what you would need to.
Engineer.
delivery was great. Oh, I'd be a journalist. All right, moving along. Oh, you're going to have to read.
Timothy Galtney, linked questions for both of you. Matt, what has been your biggest moment of science technological appreciation? Destin, what has been your biggest moment of awe?
Awe. Solar eclipse.
I don't know. It's all magic to me. You can fly in sky robots, and I can hold a black box to my ear, and other people can hear me from other places. And then when I'm not holding it to my ear, all the knowledge of human history is right on there if I just poke a screen that changes what's on it every 2 seconds the right way. Everything is incredible. I say everything. Jan Siebersma asks, maybe I heard it wrong, but in your discussion about Ender's Game, you kept referring to the word tune. Is that right? And if so, isn't it just short for platoon? Just wondering.
Correct.
Can we both just admit that every single person who told us that was right?
Yep.
And that we feel silly for not knowing?
Correct. Yep.
Thanks. Next up.
Jansen Simmons or Jansen Simmons, I don't know how to pronounce it. Question for both. What's been the scariest, most terrifying in the sense of wow, life is happening thing to happen in your lives?
Still going with the shadow monster, even though I know what you're trying to ask.
Yeah.
Felt like that was a change.
I was held
know.
at gunpoint one time by a guy. I was chasing down car thieves on foot.
Sure. Yeah.
And a guy ran out with a gun and held the car thieves and me at gunpoint until the cops got there. And I really thought he was going to shoot us. Aaron Noonan from Matt. If we someday colonize Mars and eventually become self-sustained with no need from support for Earth, based on human history, should we expect Mars to eventually become an enemy planet?
Assuming things to be steady as they are and not like there being some kind of space government, yes. The other always gets weird. Yes, that's not going to go well. We should squish the two together into one big planet so that we don't fight with each other.
Dang.
Molly Jacobs, long-distance friendships are difficult. How do you make it work and stay connected on a deeper level?
We tell each other stuff, real stuff.
No joking, that's true.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good because we're out of each other's sphere of influence. And so we can say, hey, this thing happened, and you don't know any of the players involved, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I don't know, we just check in every day. I would say we talk pretty much every day, don't we?
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe a text or something. We are not going to get through all these questions. Not
Okay.
going to happen.
Not even close.
Can
we do a handful more? You still good?
It's 2 a.m. It's not going to happen. Yeah, go Joel's and we'll do 5 more.
Okay, deal. Matt, did you play video games as a kid? Yes. The old Nintendo sound effects on the 10-minute Bible hour are on point. Thank you. Especially the Zelda one on the flannel graph. Did you catch the Zelda sound effect?
Yeah, I did. When you grabbed the heart.
I felt really good about that. Yeah, I did play video games as a kid. They were enchanting.
Brian Rainwater says, Destin, have you ever worn a blue and white striped engineer's hat asking for a mutual friend? There is a joke here.
Okay.
Here's the deal. There's a guy that runs a tractor supply business, and if a person comes in the store and is like, hey, I need a tractor part, and he'll be, oh, really? Do you know what that does? And the guy would be like, well, yeah, I'm an engineer. And he goes, really? And he has this train conductor hat he keeps under the the desk. And you pull it out and he'll act all stupid. He'll be like, I've always wanted to be an engineer and drive one of them trains. And he puts the hat on and he makes fun of the engineer. It's a thing. I had lunch with those guys not long ago. It was awesome. Chris Hartman, apart from the chinchilla, what is your favorite animal and why? Mine is the duck. It's because a duck can swim, fly, and walk. It can do all the things that, all forms of locomotion that are most effective and efficient. So it's kind of a...
You know what else can swim, fly, and walk?
What?
A rainbow trout being mishandled by a fly fisherman. So I'm going to go with trout. But when you catch those small ones, like they end up in the forest behind you sometimes. And it's a pity, but they're so light, I guess it's in the woods now, and I can't find it. It's way back in there. So flies, walks. Okay, it doesn't walk. This breaks down. I just like trout, and I wanted to talk about it. I'm ashamed. Jeremiah Schmieg says, should the penny continue to be a thing? Destin.
No. It shouldn't.
Why not?
I mean, if you own coins in general.
Wow.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
No, I'm still pro penny. I'm not quite there yet.
Really?
Should daylight savings time continue to be a thing? Same individual asking.
No.
Yeah, I'm for it. I like it.
You like?
I would say daylight not savings time should cease to be a thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, just make the days longer. I need more evening. I am going to translate the last question here from Nathan Allen, which is about Little Debbie. But what I want to know is only his last question. What is your favorite snack cake they make?
I want to read this. Destin, as a lover of all things snack cakes, please elaborate on your time at Little Debbie. What was it like to work there? Did you like the company? They're my favorite and amazing. What is your favorite snack cake they make? I will say this. I have reached out to Little Debbie, the company. It's called McKee Foods in Collegedale, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I've reached out to them because I want to make a video on a very specific machine in the plant that I think about often.
The brownie decorator?
No, we had meetings on those. I'll give you an example of what it was like to work there. I went into a very intense engineering meeting, and the discussion was on the distribution of sprinkles on the cosmic brownies, right?
Wow.
But the thing is,
right?
They're all engineers, and nobody can say sprinkles, and nobody can say, man, our sprinkles are clumping up. Nobody can say that. So they say,
well, what do they say?
So we're here to address the topping distribution deviation issue. So what we want to do is the randomization.
Oh, wait just a minute. You mean sprinkle globs?
Topping distribution, Bob. We've been over this. Topping distribution. So our vibratory distribution methods are not as effective as we thought it was, and we think if we increase the horsepower of the motor on the shaker...
You mean when them sprinkles get all clumpy?
Bob, we've been over this. Bob, you know, it's just a fascinating thing. It's a fascinating meeting. And then at some point you're like, we're talking about cakes. And it's really a super interesting place. So I've reached out to McKee Foods, and I really, really, really want to go into the plant and make videos. And their social media coordinator, the Twitter guy, you know it's time. It's time for me to come there, and it's time for me to make a video inside the plant. Let's make this happen.
Let's make this happen because your favorite snack cake they make is...
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to tip people off on what...
Of all the things we've answered, that is what
zebra cakes, Matt.
Okay,
it's zebra cakes.
Thank you for your honesty, Destin. We both respect honesty.
I want to talk about the icing on the zebra cakes. It's important to me.
Talk about the icing on the zebra cakes. I love those, especially refrigerated. But I'm going to go with nutty bars out of the freezer.
Did I ever tell you what I worked on when I was there?
I thought
the Rice Krispie cakes.
Really?
We were working on a line to convert the Rice Krispie cake line into a dual function line, so it could also make these cereal bars that contain little bits of fruit in them.
Okay.
And so, but the interesting thing was, and I can't tell you exactly the method because it's trade secret. Oh. But the way that they cut one of the products wouldn't work on the other product, and so I had to create a new way to do it, and it was rad. I liked it. It was an engineering problem that I got to solve. It was fun.
I could see how that would turn your crank. I would be interested in trying to solve that problem.
Literally turn the crank. Literally turn the crank.
Well played.
Yeah.
Very well played.
Yeah.
I think that though we didn't get through all the questions, this has been a success.
I enjoyed it.
I did not expect that many questions. I feel like we may have overpromised and underdelivered because I didn't expect the better part of 200 questions.
Well, there's two things I would like to do differently next time.
Tell me.
Number one, I would like to announce the questions with less time before we record. Like in this case, we only, 8 hours?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm thinking next time we drop the info like 3 hours before we record. So we get a normal number of questions. And also, your questions have to be, your answers have to be shorter. They just have to be.
They're hard questions. I want people to feel like we took them seriously, at least some of them.
Well, I don't know. That's the question. Do people want like longer answers to questions or just like legit lightning round answers to things like what is life?
Yeah, and some of that's fun, but I come on, man. Like I put my name on this thing. Like I'm saying stuff into a microphone. I want to at least sort of try. But yeah, I get your point. I answered one with one word.
It's a hard thing. What do you most regret about this, Matt?
What's my biggest
What's your
regret?
biggest
I don't know.
regret about all these
What would you
questions?
say you feel the most shame about?
What
in
is
this
the one
conversation?
thing that would make you most sad for me to ask you right now? And how can I best ask it?
What is the thing that you most belong in stocks for?
What is the chink in your armor that could, it's 2018. What could I tweet right now to get you fired from things you love? This was fun. I enjoyed it. What was your favorite question that we answered today for realsies?
I don't know. I want to answer that question quickly, but I can't remember. There were so many good ones. I love Raw Wessel's question.
Yes.
About discomfort.
Yeah.
Fascinating. What's yours?
I like the question about where do you want to go? Because I haven't really thought about that much, but I do. Like I'm increasingly more interested in Japan and India because they're so foreign to me in terms of language and culture, and I want to figure out a way to do it and like really get immersed in the culture. That's something that's interesting to me. Yeah.
Well, good work, man. We covered a lot of ground. Learned some stuff.
Thank you to the patrons, huh?
I think that's the real take home here. We asked for participation and we got an avalanche of participation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Well, I guess also thanks to the patrons because they support the program.
It's huge. It's huge. Thank you
Which
very
makes
much,
it
guys.
happen.
We really appreciate that.
No kidding.
And there's been a lot of people jumping on the Patreon wagon, and that community is exploding over there. So thank you.
Yeah. The last 2 months in particular, it's been incredible.
Yep. Sweet.
Fun.
Enjoyed it, man. Have
All
a good
right,
one.
dude. I'm out. See ya. Bye.